4 candidates a year, currently has 11 candidates in various stages of readiness on its waiting list, and expects another 4 or 5 new candidates to arrive in the next 12 months. We usually do doubles. We take most of our seconds and thirds out to other lodges on what we call away days. We undertook a triple initiation in November 2013, and we'll probably do it again this coming November. We have to hold an extra emergency meeting every year. Now please, understand, I'm not here to tell you what to do in your ordinary lodges. Obviously, this lodge doesn't initiate, but in your ordinary lodges, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but simply to give you the facts, man. Just the facts, as they did not quite say in Dragnet. Central to what I have to say is the law of paradoxical intent. I'll explain this in a moment, but let me start with a statement that the better a lodge feels about itself, the more likely it is to attract candidates. Now, unfortunately, in fact, as Worship Brother Brian just said, so many lodges have ceased to feel good about themselves. There aren't many smiles, Brian, he said. Numbers are low, visitors are few, any ritual is poor, and the festive board a quiet affair which finishes early. With no work to do, a lodge is actually free to do what it wants. But all too often this means nothing more than a desperate search to find someone, anyone, willing to entertain the brethren. And when all we had to do at the last meeting was a talk, the brethren feel bad. And the fact is, the brethren are unlikely to invite friends into a lodge they feel bad about. When lodges have no candidates, they continue to do what they've always done. They listen to lectures, rehearse ceremonies, even in lodge itself, install the next master, and plead with the brethren to find new members. The constant pleading and repeated failure just makes the brethren feel worse, and gradually they stop attending. We have to escape this vicious circle. I myself have had a varied career. After graduating from university, I spent a couple of years as a buyer with Ford Motor Company. Then I went back to university to get my doctorate and taught university for several years before returning once again to industry. For Xerox, I was General Manager of Scotland and Northern Ireland and Head of International Personnel before I became a partner in an accounting firm. And finally, I started the Working Manager Limited, which has survived my retirement and now has revenue of some 2 million. Now, I say that to say I've done lots of things, but on the word of leaving the multinational, I had to sell my services for a living. And it was my constant belief that if I put in the effort, work would result. But, and this is the important point, it rarely came from the direction in which my efforts had been directed. I might seek meetings with potential clients, I might write specifying how I could help, I might gain introductions, I might speak at conferences, network and attend conventions. I might create marketing literature to support a sales drive. But the contracts I won were almost never from companies I targeted. But I noticed that if I didn't put in the effort, no work at all came in. It was the effort that mattered. I did quite well because I was pushing at the world as I thought of it, and the world responded. And it is the same with lodges. They must be pushing at the world, because candidates will come to energetic lodges, ones that are involved, active, ready for something new, ones that feel good about themselves. When faced with any problem, we try to solve it on the basis of experience. And our experience is based upon assumptions. That doing X brings about Y. If we fail, we all too rarely challenge those assumptions, and so repeat the same failures. We work on the assumption that candidates will come only via existing members, and so we call upon members to find candidates. When this fails, we do not question the assumption, and so repeat the failure, and cause the brethren to feel bad. So we need to change the assumption. Now, the law of paradoxical intent holds that by doing something different, even the opposite of what we usually do, will be more likely to succeed. More or less that, in our terms, busily not seeking candidates will actually cause them to appear. According to the law of paradoxical intent, we must come at the problem of recruitment 180 degrees away from what was always assumed is the route to candidates. Doing the same old won't achieve anything. So, success implies that we stop complaining about the absence of candidates. We stop nagging the brethren. We stop wasting meetings on talks. And we ban rehearsing the ceremonies in lodges. Instead, we do what will enthuse and excite the brethren, because people will rarely talk about dull, grey lodges, but they will talk about lodges that are busy, exciting, vibrant. And excitement is infectious. In fact, every time you have another dull talk or rehearse a ceremony in lodge, you take a step backward. Look, I'm not saying this is easy. I am saying it works. The facts I've set out before you. Declining lodges are usually run by a small number of older brethren, doing their best. They have been carrying the lodge for years now, and they have just enough energy to do what they've always done, but not much more. They're not looking for new ideas. Contemplating requires energy those brethren don't have. New ideas may even be seen in criticism of those wonderful Masons who have served the lodge so loyally. So, response to change in any organisation, not just in the lodge, is almost always the same. 10% are immediately for it, 10% are immediately against it, and 80% are not sure. Trying to convince the 10% against is a waste of time. But if you convince a third of the don't knows, the change makes itself. So our book offers all sorts of things to do when you've nothing to do, hence its title. Events that will make the brethren feel good. You can copy what's in the book, you can add your own ideas, you can create your own events, but whatever you do, make it new, exciting, and a genuine advance in Masonic knowledge. It's like the old story of eating an elephant. You start with small changes, and once change starts, whatever energy there is in the lodge coalesces around it. And once you start doing exciting things, the lodge will call for more. Now, some changes will offend no one. Okay, you may be forced to do some talks to start with, but do make them suitable for a Masonic audience. The truth is that during a typical talk, 10% of the audience is quite interested, 20% mildly interested, 30% appreciate bits, and the rest are comatose. Just look around you. Talks are a one-way from speaker to audience. Only the speaker is active. As Masons, we're not used to this. The strength of our ceremonies is that everyone is actively involved, if only in rising, giving signs, and joining in song. So to work, talks have to involve the audience, and our book provides guidance on this. We can make improvements to the festive board. Table planning is a minor art form. A good plan will facilitate conversation. Everyone agrees that the standard of toasts at the festive board has declined. The most obvious reason is the speakers are given so little notice. If you want a brother to speak, it is only polite to invite him ahead of time. It is plain bad manners to invite a guest to speak at the last minute. Making a speech is not easy, but with a little thought and practice, most Masons can become proficient. The book will give advice on what to do and what to avoid, particularly that dreadful introduction, "I'm not very good at making speeches." Why would anyone listen to you then? Saying this just tells your audience to switch off. But that's all just for starters. Let's get to the meatier stuff. The idea that a real Masonic meeting is a performance of progressive ritual, installation at the Masonic waltz, is a relatively modern view. Lodge meetings used to be very different. For example, 18th century lodges were much smaller. There was no ritual for the installation of master, no limit on the tenure of a chair. The first master of the Lodge of True Friendship, number 160, was old Tommy Sampson, and he was in the chair for 9 years, from 1766 to 1776. There were only 2 degrees, and the progressive ceremonies were quite short. An initiation took 15 minutes and a second no more than 10. There is even a view that initiations did not take place inside lodge meetings, but earlier and in the side room. So what were those lodges doing? They must have worked a ritual very different from ours. What was it? Well, they worked the lectures, and we can do so as well. The progressive ceremonies are letting us down. With their pretense to be all that Masonry is, they make a meeting without them seem like failure. So to use the jargon, we must turn risk into opportunity and reintroduce the original ritual of Freemasonry, the lectures, genuinely offering a Masonic advancement, a daily advancement in Masonic knowledge. The book shows how to use the lectures, the modern forms, and also the earlier forms that go back to Preston and beyond. We had a lot of fun with the earlier versions, wearing 18th century costume and wig. I don't recognise anyone that quickly. The book includes a script of catechism and entertainment that I wrote using the lectures to involve the whole lodge. In fact, the book contains a whole number of plays what I wrote, including Charge, a two-hander with audience participation about the ancient charges and old charges, Attack with Jack the Ripper and the Seddon murder, turning the lodge into a courtroom, and Exposure, a major event with lights, music and a smoke machine, revealing the silliness of the so-called exposures of Freemasonry. You can use the scripts in the book just as they are. You can adapt them, or you can use them to stimulate your own ideas. Remember the law of paradoxical intent. Keep busy doing interesting things. When you get home, take a look at stlawrencelodge.org.uk. The old saying that if you invent a better mousetrap, the world will beat the path to your door is, of course, completely false. If you're doing something worthwhile, you have to tell the world. And today the web is perhaps the best way to do this. Here are some pointers. Site hosting is not expensive, and many hosting sites offer tools to create your website with a minimum of know-how. With some skill in word processing, you can create a website in a day or two. One-on-one internet is a bit pricey, but I used their tools to create a website in an afternoon. I know 2 lodges who paid for a custom-built website a year ago and are still waiting for it. Do it yourself. You need constant updates. There are any number of really boring lodge websites out there which do nothing at all for their lodge. The web crawlers feeding the search engines will list only active sites. Only the website of an active and interesting lodge will attract candidates. It is unlikely that a potential candidate will make contact the first time he sees your site. Most likely he will return several times and will make contact only if he sees interesting things happen. We know that because we've asked all our contacts. The St. Lawrence Lodge website averages 10,000 hits a month. Why? Because our site is lively and updated often. It carries lots of photographs. It reports our meetings, our visit to other lodges, our social and sporting events, and the activities of individual members. The website that shows an interesting lodge doing interesting things will attract contacts. And younger people are more likely to use the web, and this is good. We need younger people to join. And younger men know other younger men, so producing contacts from contacts. Your website is much more than an advert. It puts our message out. It combats the silly accusations that are made about us and states our values. The more lodges who do that, the louder our message becomes. Your website would not be a competition for ours. The most successful ad ever was Personal Washes Whiter, because it was said over and over and over again. Frequency of message is what matters. Now, of course, contacts are strangers. We put in the effort to get to know the people who come to us. We arrange events, a visit to Freemasons Hall, a tour of the British Museum, a drink at a convenient pub, 10-pin bowling, or dinner at a Chinese restaurant. We do this about 8 times a year. Each candidate will attend at least 4 events before we offer him Form P. Our rule is that a year must elapse between first contact and initiation. We manage contacts carefully. Names of towns and counties are repeated all over the world. We invited one contact to an event in Upminster in Essex. A couple of days beforehand he wrote saying he knew Essex well, but he didn't know Upminster. Alarm bells rang. We discovered he indeed did live in Essex, just outside Baltimore in the States. Our website says that we're an all-male lodge, but nevertheless we are contacted by ladies. We pass such contacts on to a Grand Officer in the Order of Women Freemasons. It does pay to be careful. There are no addresses on our website or in our emails. Initial contact is in public places and by email, not telephone, until we are sure the contact is genuine. Occasionally we'll find that the contact is not appropriate and we have to say so. Clearly but politely. Sometimes a contact is looking for more than we can offer, perhaps psychological help. We obtain professional advice, but good manners and human understanding go a long way. Some people make contact but fade away. Perhaps there's no response to our email. One never knows why, but perhaps the contact does not wish us well. So our initial email is always most carefully worded. There is an example in the book. Worship Master, you appointed a mentor this evening. Many of us recognise that the role of the mentor is not always treated as seriously as it should be. Since contacts via the web are strangers, we start the mentoring process early. We ensure that contacts meet members of the lodge, but also other contacts. At our informal dinners and suppers, we play general post, moving senior brethren around the table to talk to everyone. We keep an eagle eye on the flow of conversation to ensure that everyone is involved. At some point, a senior brother will start asking the contact about Masonry, what they know, and what they would like to know, and will answer all their questions openly. You will be very surprised how much contacts already know. They have researched our order, and they know why they have to join. We've all met candidates coming in from friends or relations when asked in that dreadful formal interview, so why do you want to become a Mason? They say, I don't really know. My friend said it'd be a good idea. When you talk to contacts that we've made, these people really know about Freemasonry and really know why they want to join. Mentoring doesn't stop with initiation. We take new brethren out to visit other lodges, especially those with a different ritual. The mentor always carries an apprentice and fellow craft apron, a spare black tie, and a pair of gloves just in case. Our table plans are designed so that new brethren get to know everybody. We seat them next to different brethren at each meeting. We give new members a job to do at the Lodge of Instruction right from the start. We find small passages of ritual for them to do in lodge. We put all new Master Masons in the chair at LFI to feel what it's like. We work hard to get candidates. We also work hard to keep them. But all of this and more is in the book. It gives advice on how to run a white table, complete with a full script. I mentioned we did a triple initiation. We wanted to retain the personal impact of the occasion for the individual, but we also wanted to minimize repetition. So while we maintained the words of the ritual, we adapted the rubric. How we did this is in the book. So in conclusion, let me state my basic theme. The law of paradoxical intent says that by getting away from our usual assumptions and doing something completely different, we are more likely to succeed. Lodges that are up for something new are energetic, involved and active. They feel good about themselves. The more a lodge feels good about itself, the more likely it is to attract candidates and the better story it has to tell on its website. So let me stop you there and invite you to ask questions. Ask anything on your mind. No question is a silly one.